Hey guys, it's late here and just wanted to say hey and a big thank you to a bunch of the supporters. You guys have been awesome. And a big shout out to Eric. You definitely know who you are. Want to thank you. Um, so before we get too far into this, I just wanted to have this quick message with you. Uh, Hopefully this will be the last time I have to do something like this while we finish the rest of Charlie Bone and the Blue Boa. That's right, we're back, guys, and I'll be having videos upload more often of the chapters so we can finish the book and start the next one. Um, Super excited, and I hope you guys are too as we return to this. So, this is chapter 9, A Very Old Mouse. When the squeaking had finally died down, Billy said, "Shall we let it go, or try to keep it?" Charlie took a step toward the mouse and decided the matter. The little creature darted under the bath, and when Charlie tried to crawl after it, the mouse slept through a hole in the floor. "That's it then." Charlie stood up and dusted himself off. "What are we going to do about the sorcerer?" said Billy. "There's nothing we can do. We'll just have to wait." Charlie was awake for most of the night. Billy grunted and chattered in his sleep while the rat made a peculiar twittering noise. Now and again Charlie would shout, "Shut up, both of you!" But his visitors slept on. Very early next morning, Charlie tiptoed downstairs for a bowl of cereal. The house and the street outside were eerily quiet, and Rembrandt was right. There was a very strange smell about the place. Was that how bad magic smelled? Charlie wondered if the mouse had brought bad luck as well as bad magic into the house. When he'd finished his cereal, Charlie took a cup of tea and a biscuit up to his uncle's room. Payton was sitting propped up against a mound of cushions and pillows. He still looked deathly white, but a bit of life appeared to have seeped back into his gray hair. "Morning, dear boy." Peyton's voice was very faint. "You're looking a bit better, Uncle," said Charlie. "Your hair, it was all gray yesterday." "Ash," Peyton said hoarsely. He touched his throat. "Can't talk much." Charlie noticed that the light was still on. It flickered now and again, but there was none of the bright explosions that Peyton usually managed to generate. "Maybe it's a good thing that you've lost your—" Charlie hesitated. "Well, I mean, now that lights don't explode all around you." "It crossed my mind," Peyton whispered. "But only for a moment. I realized it's never a good thing to lose your talent. You lose a bit of yourself along with it." "I suppose so," said Charlie solemnly. "Uncle Peyton, what happened to you?" Peyton closed his eyes. "Can't talk now, Charlie. If you see Miss Ingledew, tell her... tell her..." "Yes?" said Charlie eagerly. "Tell her what?" "Tell her I wish..." Peyton shook his head. "No, I'm afraid it's too late." "Too late?" cried Charlie. His uncle's expression scared him. "What do you mean, too late?" "Never mind. I'd like to be alone now, Charlie." Whatever it was that had happened to his uncle, Charlie was afraid that the effects might be permanent or fatal. He quietly closed the door and went back to his room. Billy was sitting on the edge of Charlie's bed with Rembrandt on his knee. "I thought it was all a bad dream," he said, rubbing his eyes. "But it really happened, didn't it? The mouse and the sorcerer." "Afraid so," said Charlie. "What do you think Scarpa will do if he's here? Somewhere?" "We'll just have to wait and see. Billy, you won't tell anyone about this, right?" Billy shook his head. I won't tell about Scarpo, but I think they'll already know about you going into pictures and that. I heard them talking once about the painting. Old Mr. Ezekiel and Matron, they said, do you think Charlie will go in? I didn't understand what they meant back then. Charlie perched beside the small albino. I know you couldn't help being a spy, he said, but it's time you chose sides, Billy. I've got to know if I can trust you. Billy hung his head. Mr. Ezekiel said he'd found some really kind people who wanted to be my parents, but it was a lie. I'll never trust him again. The Bloors lie about everything, said Charlie. But when this is all over, I'm sure someone will find parents for you. Cook said she would, but when all's what's over. Charlie wasn't sure himself. Perhaps he meant when Ollie Sparks had been rescued, and Belle or Yolanda had disappeared, when Uncle Peyton was himself again, and Lyle, Charlie's father, had been found. Or perhaps he meant the struggle between those who ruined lives if they didn't get what they wanted, and others who couldn't help trying to stop them. The children of the Red King, Charlie murmured. It's a battle between all of us. I meant when that was all over. Billy looked dubious. Perhaps it'll never be over. Or maybe it'll be a long, long time. I think I could wait quite a long time. Maybe a year. But I don't want to be a grown-up before I get parents. I wish I could remember my real parents. I wish I knew how they had died. No one would explain it to me ever. Charlie thought of his own father. Everyone pretended that he was dead. But Charlie knew it was a lie. At least Billy had a photo. Charlie didn't even have that. You showed me a photo of your parents once, he said. They looked nice. Yes, said Billy sadly. Come on, let's get dressed, said Charlie on a brighter note. They found Mrs. Bone in the kitchen cooking 2 large breakfasts. I'm sorry I've got to leave you on your own, she said, but there's plenty of food in the fridge, and I'll be back before tea time. Thank goodness Peyton is better. Charlie wasn't so sure about Peyton. We're not exactly on our own, said Charlie, as a door slammed upstairs. Grandma Bone was on the move. Amy glanced up at the ceiling and said, You know what I mean. Enjoy your breakfasts. Bye now. And she was off. By the time Grandma Bone came marching into the kitchen, Charlie and Billy had eaten their breakfasts, and Billy had managed to slip some toast and bacon into his pocket. A bit of starving wouldn't hurt you, she said, glaring at Charlie, after eating all my specials. Charlie almost told her that Runner Bean had eaten the pâté, but he thought better of it. He wanted a peaceful weekend. Sorry, he mumbled. I made a mistake. We're going to the park now, Grandma. He took his plate to the sink, but when he turned round, his grandmother gave him one of those mean smiles. No, you're not, she said. Someone very important is coming to visit us. Who? Asked Charlie. That's for me to know, she retorted. Clean yourselves up and look nice. They'll be here in half an hour. Billy scuttled nervously to the sink with his plate. Wash it up, dear, said Grandma Bone. Charlie waited while Billy dutifully cleaned his plate and put it back on the rack. Back in the bedroom, Billy fed the hungry rat and then began to grunt to it. Rembrandt squeaked back. He says the mouse ought to go home, Billy told Charlie. It's not good for him here. It's not good for us either, said Charlie. But even if we found the mouse, I wouldn't know how to get it back into the painting, unless I took it myself, and I don't want to go in again. I don't trust Scarpo. He might make it impossible for me to get out. If he's still in there, said Billy. He must be, said Charlie desperately. I mean, if he was out, we'd know by now. He's dangerous. He only deals in destruction. He told me once that he liked to maim, poison, burn, shrink, drive people mad. Billy's mouth had fallen open. He'd uttered a soft of horror. The two boys waited anxiously for their important visitor to arrive. Occasionally they looked down into the street, but no one grand or imposing walked up to their door. No flashy or expensive cars stopped close by. Then Billy suddenly shivered and said, "There it is. It's him." Charlie saw a black car with smoked glass windows gliding to a halt in front of the house. He recognized the car immediately. It had come once before when Billy had stayed with him. Charlie had never seen the passenger. When he had gone to look into the car, a long cane had whipped through the window and whacked him on the knees, something he wasn't likely to forget. A powerful-looking man in a black suit got out of the driver's seat and walked round the passenger door. A black chauffeur's hat hid the cropped head, but Charlie knew the broad nose, red face, and small slanting eyes. It was Whedon, the gardener handyman. Whedon opened the passenger door very wide and then leant into the car. After a moment of maneuvering, he stood up with a weird bundle in his arms. Most of it was covered by a tartan blanket, but Charlie could see a hideous wizened face under a black skull cap, and two scrawny legs in white socks with red velvet slippers on the feet. "Is that who I think it is?" said Charlie. Billy nodded miserably. "Mr. Ezekiel. He's come for me." "Maybe not. Let's wait and see," as Charlie said, said this as a third person got out of the car and slammed all the doors and followed Whedon and his bundle. "I should have known she'd come too," said Charlie as he watched his great aunt Lucretia mount the steps. "Charlie! Billy, you're wanted!" shouted Grandma Bone. Billy put Rembrandt in his box and followed Charlie downstairs. Grandma Bone was waiting for them outside the sitting room door. "Come in, boys. Come in," she said, smiling as though she'd won tickets for a football match. Charlie went in first and found himself facing the oldest-looking man he'd ever seen. He was sitting in the biggest armchair, still wrapped in his tartan blanket. His face was so wizened it looked like a skull, and his thin white hair hung to his shoulders in waxy strands. His mouth had all but disappeared beneath a knobby nose, but his black eyes glinted with a frightening intensity. "Charlie Bone, at last." The old man held out a stringy, malted hand. Charlie looked at the hand and wondered if it ate things. He decided he'd better shake it, but before he knew it, his fingers were being pulverized by something that felt like a nutcracker. He retrieved his hand with a gasp of pain, and Mr. Whedon, who was sitting in an upright chair beside the old man, gave a malicious grin. "We know Billy," said Mr. Ezekiel. "In fact, we know each other very well, Billy. Don't we?" He picked up a cane propped against his chair and tapped the floor by Billy's feet. Billy gave a silent nod. "Sit down, boys." Mr. Ezekiel's voice sounded rather like a rusty saw. Charlie and Billy made for the nearest chair and shared it, both perching on the end. Grandma Bone sat beside Lucretia on the sofa, and Lucretia said, "Well, isn't this nice?" Charlie thought hardly. "Now," Mr. Ezekiel rubbed his hands together, "to begin with, I'm very pleased to meet you, boys, and see that you've become friends. We've all got to work together, haven't we? The more of us, the better, isn't that so?" Charlie said, "It depends." Mr. Ezekiel frowned, and Grandma Bone and her sister muttered, "Insolence! Behave yourself." "You're not going to be like your father, are you?" said Mr. Ezekiel, raising his voice and glaring at Charlie. I expect you've noticed I can't walk. Do you know who's responsible? Your father, damn him. He did this to me. He deserved to die. Charlie gritted his teeth. He was so angry he was afraid he might do something violent. Instead, he muttered, "He isn't dead." "What?" cried the old man. "What did you say?" "I said my father isn't dead," Charlie shouted. The old man's black eyes flashed. He stared at Charlie for several seconds, and then he gave a shrill cackle. "Prove it," he sniggered. Charlie said nothing. "No, you can't, can you?" said Mr. Ezekiel. He was suddenly overcome by a bout of coughing, and Grandma Bone rushed out to fetch him a cup of tea. While she was gone, Aunt Lucretia snarled, "You're a very stupid boy, Charlie Bone. Why can't you see sense? Why can't you do the right thing?" Charlie remained silent, and Billy squashed himself further back into the chair. Grandma Bone returned with 3 cups of tea and a plate of biscuits. She handed the tea and biscuits to Ezekiel, Lucretia, and Mr. Wheaton, but when Charlie put a hand towards the plate, Lucretia gave him a hard slap. "Ouch!" Charlie withdrew his stinging hand. Mr. Ezekiel said, "We mustn't hit Charlie. We want him on our side, don't we?" "I sometimes wonder if he's worth the trouble," sniffed Grandma Bone. Charlie couldn't stop himself. "If you want me on your side, you've got a funny way of going about it." Grandma Bone raised her eyebrows. Ezekiel slurped his tea. Lucretia stirred hers. At last the old man said, "We never meant to do any harm, Charlie. Not permanent harm. We just had to teach you a lesson, now and again." "You have to be shown the way." "And what way is that?" asked Charlie. Ezekiel shook his head. "I want us all to be on the same side, Charlie. Think how powerful we could be. All bright, gifted children, children of the Red King, think what you can do. Billy understands, don't you, Billy?" Billy squirmed in his seat. "Billy's a good boy," said Grandma Bone. "Billy does what he's told. He doesn't break the rules." "Rules?" said Charlie. "My father broke your rules, and you did something horrible to him. And my Uncle Peyton went where you didn't want him to go, and now he's all ruined. That's not fair." Mr. Whedon leaned forward. All "All's fair in love and war," he announced in a commanding voice. The other 3 adults looked at him in surprise, and Charlie had an odd feeling that of all the people in the room, Mr. Wheaton was the one he should fear the most. Ezekiel gave an exasperated sigh. "I am tired of this. I don't like arguing with little boys. Just behave yourself, Charlie Bone. You know what I can do to people who don't." Charlie was trying to think of a clever reply when a mouse suddenly appeared on the mantelpiece. Everyone watched it scuttling around the candlesticks and then the china ornaments, and then it stood on its hind legs beside the clock and started to squeak. Grandma Bone and Aunt Lucretia had already begun to shriek when Ezekiel shouted, "What's it saying, Billy? Tell us." "It says it's lost," said Billy, although the mouse was actually saying, "I'm going out of my mind with worry. Where am I? I don't understand how I got here." Billy was about to say something reassuring to the little creature when Mr. Wheaton brought out his hat and slammed it down with a bang over the mouse. "Got the little bladder," he said. Billy and Charlie watched in dismay as the big man turned his hat over to put his hand on top of the mouse. But then he gave a grunt of fury and dropped both hat and mouse. "Butter bit me," he yelled. Charlie whispered to Billy, "With any luck, he'll get the plague." The mouse leapt out of the hat and raced under the sofa. "Get me out of here!" shrieked Ezekiel. "Whedon, leave the damn mouse. Billy, fetch your bag. You're coming home with me." "But I'm staying with Charlie," said Billy, "for the weekend. I don't want to come back to Bloor's." "Don't argue," shouted Ezekiel. "He's a bad influence. Go and get your stuff." Billy wriggled out of the chair and left the room with a look of despair. "It's not fair," said Charlie. "Billy's alone every weekend." "Not fair, not fair," mimicked Grandma Bone. "Nothing's fair with you, is it?" "No." Charlie was so disgusted with everyone he walked out of the room growling softly, "and it's not fair to keep invisible boys locked up." "What did you say, you insolent boy?" his grandmother shouted. Billy came downstairs with his bag and Rembrandt in the box. Charlie was about to advise him to hide the box when Mr. Whedon burst out of the sitting room carrying the old man. "What's in there?" said Ezekiel, tapping the box with his cane. A, a rat," said Billy, too frightened to lie. "What? Get rid of it." "But it's a friend," said Billy faintly. "It's not coming into my house," declared Ezekiel. "But it belonged to Mr. Moldova," said Billy, making things worse for himself. "And now he's gone. There's no one else to look after it." Grandma Bone and Aunt Lucretia had come into the hall and both began shouting at once. "In the house? A rat? Someone kill it!" Billy's eyes began to fill with tears. "You can't," he sobbed. "I'll look after it," cried Charlie, seizing the box. "Don't worry, Billy." "You will not!" roared Grandma Bone. "I will not have it in the house. Whedon, bang it on the head." But Whedon had his hands full with Mr. Ezekiel. Before anyone else could make a move, Charlie had opened the front door. "Bye, Billy," he shouted as he raced down the steps. "I'm taking Rembrandt somewhere where he'll be safe." "Come back!" called Grandma Bone. "But that boy is out of control," bellowed Aunt Lucretia. "Not for long," said Ezekiel. Charlie didn't hear this. He ran up Filbert Street, on into the city, stopping only once to look into the box. Rembrandt stared out fearfully, his nose twitching at least 100 times a second. "Sorry, Rem," Charlie panted. "I hate to do this to you, but you didn't stand a chance back there." He raced up Frog Street and sped down the alley to the Pets Cafe. "Oh, Charlie, you look buffed," said Norton, the bouncer, as Charlie leapt through the door. "I've got to see Mr. Onimus," said Charlie. "Is he about?" He held up the box. "Rat," he said, "in a bit of trouble." "Orville's in the kitchen. Just go around the counter." Leaping over a bird cage and 2 Dachshunds, Charlie hastily made his way round the counter and through the door at the back. Mr. and Mrs. Onimus were having a cup of tea at the long kitchen table. Several large saucepans were bubbling away on the stove, and they both looked very flush. "Well, if it isn't Charlie," said Mr. Onimus, dabbing his face with a red handkerchief. "Sit down, mate. Have a cuppa." "Thanks, but I'm in a bit of a rush," said Charlie. There was a joyful bark, and Runner Bean erupted from under the table. Charlie put his box on the table and allowed his face to be licked while he rubbed the big dog's rough hair. When he looked round, Rembrandt was sitting beside Mrs. Onimus's cup of tea. "Well, this is a nice surprise," she said. "A very pretty rat indeed." Runner Bean growled, and Charlie asked him if he would please be quiet, as the rat was already in quite a state. "I brought him here because Grandma Bone would have killed him," Charlie explained. "I thought he'd be safe with you. Can you look after him, Mrs. Onimus, please?" "Well, you'd better tell us all about this, young Charlie," said Mr. Onimus. "And have some cake while you do it," said Mrs. Onimus. "Sit down, Charlie, and make yourself at home." Charlie hadn't intended to stay. He was worried that his mother would get home from work and find Grandma Bone in fury. But the smell of freshly baked cakes and the Onimus's welcome smiles were hard to resist. So he sat between them at the table and munched his way through an enormous slice of chocolate cake while he told his friends everything about Ollie Sparks, the Blue Boa, and the terrible loneliness of Ollie's invisibility. And then the final dreadful scene with Mr. Ezekiel and poor Billy. Billy wanted to keep the rat, said Charlie, feeding Rembrandt a crumb. It's a friend, you see. It can understand what Billy says, but that revolting old man said he couldn't have it, and Grandma Bone told Mr. Wheaton to bang it on the head. The poor dear creature! Mrs. Onimus clutched her chest. Come to me, my love. Rembrandt leapt over a plate and landed in Mrs. Onimus's lap. Obviously, Billy wasn't the only person he could understand. You say your uncle has a mystery illness, said Mr. Onimus, who had a great respect for Peyton Newbeam, and you have no idea what caused this strange affliction. All I know is that he met someone in Newbeam Castle, said Charlie, and this person did something to him. The Onimuses stared at Charlie, equally horrified. That's a terrible place, said Mr. Onimus at last. Have you been there? Never. Mr. Onimus shook his head. Wild horses wouldn't drag me there. It's an evil place, Charlie. Your uncle was lucky to get out alive. But maybe he won't stay alive, said Charlie fearfully. We must live in hope, dear, said Mrs. Onimus, who looked anything but hopeful at the time. And now we have reached the end of this chapter. And really quick, I just want to say thank you guys again for all your messages about having me continue this book. It's a pleasure to come back and do this. So if you guys really enjoyed this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to see when I'm next uploading chapters. As well, if you guys definitely want to see more, please leave a comment. Let me know how this turned out. And if you want to help support the channel, you guys can join any one of the memberships or join up on the Patreon. There's even a link to donate to the PayPal. Every little bit helps as I can collect more books, rebuild the library, and try to build the community bigger and stronger. You guys have been great, and I'll see you soon.